There we go. Awesome. Great. Hi, everyone. Let me know that you're here by putting a little comment in the chat. I have two screens here, so if you see me looking over to the right, or my right at least, I'm just looking at the chat screen with everybody. Yay! Happy Friday Eve. Thank you, Michelle. So wonderful that you're here. Thank you for showing up and joining us. I know that we had almost over 200 participants signing up for this, so I want to give everybody a chance to be able to log in. I know this is a new platform using StreamYard, so I'm just going to give everybody just a couple minutes to really trickle in. Awesome. Julia, hi. Good. Oh, wonderful. The comments are coming in. Shonda, I'm so glad you're here. Diana, oh, this is so wonderful. Serena, this is so great to see you all. Let me know where you're from. Right now, I am in Denver, Colorado, and it is snowy outside and cold. I think it's in the teens. So I am happy to be inside, cozy and warm, spending this time with y'all. So let me know where you're from. I see the comments coming in. A lot of people are joining. This is wonderful. Today is going to be an incredible workshop. If you haven't downloaded the workbook that goes with this workshop yet, please do so now. There's a link in all of your reminders from me, not from StreamYard, but the reminders from me. There's a link to download your workbook for today. Make sure that you have done that. If you haven't, you can use a note on your phone. You can use a pen and piece of paper. It's completely okay if you're not able to download it. But if you can, I really want you to go download that, because it's going to, it gives you space to answer some of the questions I'll be asking. It gives you space to do your boundary commitment statement. So and it also has some notes in it too. So it's really, really useful. If you haven't done it already, please do so now. This is great. I'm seeing everybody sending their hellos. This is wonderful. Oh, lovely. Nova Scotia. Congratulations. That might be the furthest. This is really wonderful. San Luis Obispo. Oh, I love this. Aurora. Oh, there's a lot of California people in here. Oh, I used to live in California. I have a very, very, very special place for California in my heart. Most of my adulthood I lived there. So this is great to see California on here. And for everybody, Kansas, this is great. Aurora, Colorado, freezing here as well. Yes. freezing. All right. Let's get started. We've given people about a few minutes to trickle in. So let's get started here. So for everyone who doesn't know me on this call, my name is Raina. I'm the founder and owner of Raina Garner Coaching and Counseling. I'm an IFS practitioner, as well as an ICF certified transformational coach and an Energy Leadership Index master practitioner. It's a mouthful, and if you want to know more about that, you can always message me. And I am thrilled that each and every one of you are here with me today. You've taken the time out for yourself to be able to focus inward. This is a new year. A lot of us are setting a lot of New Year resolutions. And right now you are taking a step towards caring for yourself, which is what boundaries are all about. Okay. So you are in the right place. If you are constantly second guessing yourself and the decisions that you're making, you're ignoring your wants and needs, or maybe you don't even know what your wants and needs are because you've ignored them for so long, it's completely okay. You are in the right place. If you want to create more ease and peace in 2025, if you feel like externally you have everything together, or maybe other people feel that about you, that you just have everything together, but internally you feel lost. You realize there's a lot of self-deprecating thoughts happening, and you just lack the confidence to set those clear, healthy boundaries. You're in the right place and you're not alone. Each and every person on this workshop today feels some version of that. And it is my passion to help people just like you break free from these patterns. And today I'm going to share with you how to make a real shift towards confident, healthy boundaries without feeling guilty for putting yourself first or fear of disappointing others. So buckle up. It's going to be a long journey. We'll make it fun though along the way. So what to expect from today. So first, we're going to explore the root of why boundaries have been so hard for you. Okay. Then we're going to explore the different types of boundaries. And I'm not talking about like mental, physical, spiritual, not talking about that. There are 3 specific types of boundaries that a lot of people are not aware of. And it's the reason why a lot of us say, oh, you know, I try to set boundaries, but they just don't work. Or yeah, of course I set boundaries, but nobody pays attention to them. So we're going to really dive into the 3 different types of boundaries. And I'll touch on, for those of you who have taken the boundary personality quiz that I created, I will kind of briefly touch on how those 3 different personality types tie in with the 3 different boundaries. And then lastly, this is the fun part, we are going to learn exactly what is needed to set clear, healthy, confident boundaries. For real this time. We're going to do it. And we're going to practice setting and, well, you're going to practice holding it outside of this session, but we're going to practice a boundary commitment statement together. So you're going to walk away with at least one boundary today that you feel you can hold outside of this session. So if I said this in the very beginning, but for those of you who are just joining, I want you to go and download the boundary workbook that we're doing today. So I'm going to put it in the comments here. It should be posted to everybody. This is the link. You can go there and there's a big bright pink button that says download the workbook now. If you haven't done that, I want you to do that now. There's room for you to take notes, but most importantly, I'll be asking you questions throughout this entire workshop to help you cultivate that commitment statement at the end. So I want you to, excuse me, I want you to be following along step by step. If for some reason you can't download it, there's technical difficulties, don't worry. Grab a pen and piece of paper, grab a note in your cell phone, okay? So if you haven't done it, go ahead and download that now. Okay, let's get started. So before we jump in, like I said, some of you on this call don't actually know me. This might be the first time you're seeing my face or getting to interact with me. And I want to share my story because I want you to take things from it. I want you to listen for where you feel that connects to you, and where my journey turns is where you're at right now. I had a pretty abrupt wake-up call, but you don't have to. You're on this call with me right now. I've done a lot of the work already. I've been doing this for 15 years. It's been a long time in the making. So before I jump in, I'm just going to share a little bit about my journey. Like I said, I want you to see where you see yourself in this too. So back in 2007, yes, a long time ago, I was probably a little bit where you're at right now. I was holding up this unbreakable facade, or what felt like an unbreakable facade. I was juggling running a health clinic, balancing college, and constantly putting everyone else around me before myself, regardless of how I felt inside. I really, truly believed I could do it all and with a smile on my face. Because isn't that the expectation, right? I was stretched so very thin though. And I was convincing myself that if I just tried harder and pushed through, I could keep it all together. Because if I couldn't, that might mean that I was flawed in some way. Back then, boundaries weren't even on my radar because boundaries were for people who weren't Superwoman, and I was living proof that Superwoman actually existed. But eventually it started to take a toll on my mental health. I became even more self-critical when I didn't have the energy to do or be everything to everyone else around me. I had ignored my needs and wants for so long, I didn't even know what they were anymore. Anxiety set in and depression came looking for me. The woman who looked like she had it all together was beginning to crumble, and there was no avoiding it. It wasn't until late one night, I was driving home from work, that I heard a voice in my head screaming, "Wake up!" When I opened my eyes, my car was headed straight for the trunk of a tree. I swerved just in time, my heart pounding out of my chest. This was literally my wake-up call. I had hit rock bottom burnout, and in that moment, I realized something had to change. I couldn't keep on going like this. So I started to put up boundaries. It was hard. I had to admit I wasn't Superwoman anymore. I started to put up boundaries with work and the people around me, but nothing actually seemed to change except for my level of aggravation with others and a newfound sense of suffocating guilt. Who can relate with that, right? You try to set up boundaries and all it does is just frustrate the crap out of you and make you feel so guilty. If you're connecting with that, I want you to just put yes in the chat or me in the chat. Just let me know. Like some of you I know have been trying to set boundaries and all it's made is aggravation and guilt and feeling like there's something wrong with you because nobody else will hold that boundary. You're not alone. I have been there. I've been on that struggle. Yeah, I see a lot of yeses and me's coming in. Absolutely. You are in good company. You are in good company. So I embarked on a deeply personal healing journey, immersing myself in therapy, in research, and thousands upon thousands of hours of training to find out why my boundaries weren't working. And most importantly, to help others avoid that same painful burnout. Over the last 15 years, I've dedicated myself to guiding women worldwide to understand their unique boundary personality, helping them uncover how these patterns drive their behaviors, reactions, and healing the root cause. Healing the root cause of why these patterns were set in motion in the first place. It's not just about having the intention to set a boundary. There's so much more to it. And today I am here to share what I've learned and support you in finding that same freedom. So, many of us feel disconnected from our own wants and needs, especially in moments when we're asked to stretch beyond our capacity. Or what we believe our capacity to be is something like a superwoman, which is unrealistic. And often the people making those demands of us are the ones that are closest to us. This is a unique stress because we want to be there for others. And sometimes it feels like we have to trade in our peace and well-being to make everyone else around us happy. We do it because in the beginning, it feels good. It feels good to be there for others. It feels good to be the one that can fix everything. But when we start pushing ourselves past the point of giving into pure depletion, we can feel like there's no way out. We're just this endless pit of drain, which leaves us with a lack of confidence in ourselves. Does this resonate with any of you? Type yes in the chat. I want to hear from you. Or maybe you have a little bit of a different version of it. You can also type that in the chat. This cycle is exhausting. And I want you to walk away today with a simple, doable tool and strategies that you can use on breaking this depletion cycle for yourself. Yeah, I see a lot of yeses. Yeah, Shonda, yes, yeah. So relatable. Yeah, Serena, absolutely. Yes. Yeah. So how about this? Let's make setting boundaries easier. Let's just make it easier. Let's educate ourselves on what it actually takes to set boundaries. We're going to start with 3 insights. So insight number 1 is that it's not your fault. It really is not your fault. Take the guilt away. Take the pressure off of your shoulders. You were raised to be boundaryless. I will repeat that again because it's so important. You were raised to be boundaryless. This is a safety mechanism. It served the people around you and yourself growing up to keep yourself safe, to be boundaryless, which created a people pleaser. Everybody raise your hand if you're a people pleaser, or maybe a recovering one. Yes, you're in good company. So people pleasing is a form of safety. It is not kindness. People pleasing is not a form of safety. People pleasing is not a form of kindness. It is a form of safety. The focus isn't actually on others. I'm going to repeat that. People pleasing, the focus is not on others. It feels that way, and we tell ourselves that, but that is not the focus. The focus is on ourselves. It's on creating safety and security for ourselves. People pleasing isn't kindness, it's survival. It's a learned behavior that kept you safe when love was conditional. It's a trauma response, which basically is just a bunch of patterns and behaviors that you utilize to keep yourself alive. Coping mechanisms that helped you survive when you didn't get attention and love and the connection that you needed as a young child. Your little brain felt threatened. You can't survive as a little human without love, safety, and a sense of belonging to those around you. So what does your genius little brain do? You play nice. You read the room constantly. You mitigate conflict and become a chameleon, a sponge. You keep quiet to keep the peace in order to maintain connection to those who are most important to you. The problem is when you're constantly in a state of survival, you never feel safe. And if you never feel safe, you never get a chance to develop a true sense of self. You don't get to know yourself, to connect with yourself. You are preoccupied with paying attention to everyone else around you. And you perpetuate this fear of abandonment that you have by continuing to abandon yourself. You and your coping mechanisms become an echo of everyone else's needs, opinions, and desires. But here's the truth. Survival isn't the same thing as living. Survival is not the same thing as living. And at some point, You have to decide, are you going to keep playing small, keep abandoning yourself to avoid conflict, or are you ready to create a life from within where you get to decide who you are and what matters to you? Because real peace, real belonging comes from you finally stop shape shifting and start showing up for yourself. But first, healthy, confident boundaries are needed to do all of this. Who's in? Type it in the chat. If you're ready, to stop playing small, if you're ready to stop shape shifting, if you're ready to stop abandoning yourself, type yes in the chat again. Yeah, I see me. I love that. Yes, exactly. The enthusiasm. Yes, you are ready. Claim it right now. I know we're just in the beginning of all of this, but claim it for yourself right now to stop playing small, to stop shape shifting, to stop abandoning yourself, to stop people pleasing in the name of others. The other part of this, yes, I see. Yes, I'm in. Awesome. Good. The other part of this is emotionally managing others. Now, emotionally managing others can be hard to break. It takes practice, right? We just talked about people pleasing and how we have to read the room, how we have to mitigate the conflict, right? We don't have to do that anymore. A lot of us aren't in those same situations that we were in growing up. We can choose now. So that person's crappy mood isn't your responsibility. Their bad day, their stress, their sadness. I know you love them and I know that you care about them, but it's not your problem to fix. In fact, there may even be a part of you that actually wants to fix it because their distress feels like a threat to your connection with them. So I want to just pause here for a moment, make the connection. We're talking about people pleasing, keeping ourselves safe. We started doing that because we didn't have the connection that we needed growing up. This is part of people pleasing, is emotionally managing others. And when they're distressed, it feels like it's a threat to your connection with them. Like if they get too upset or overwhelmed, they'll withdraw and you'll lose them and their love. But if you can detect and fix every issue for them, you're good, right? You're safe, right? No. This is why you're here today. That's a symptom of codependency and no emotional boundaries. Love does not require you to manage another adult's emotions. So learn to separate your feelings from theirs and allow them to rely on their own emotional resilience and trust them to handle their own feelings. Yes, be patient, be kind, be supportive, be loving, be compassionate, and remember that you can't fix their problems for them. So this is question number 1 for you in that workbook. Who in your life do you feel you have to emotionally manage? What would it look like if you allowed yourself to step back and let them be responsible for their own feelings, even if it's just a baby step? Take a moment to write that down. All of this is going to build on itself to create our boundary commitment statement at the end. So it's important to answer all of these questions. Who in your life do you feel you have to emotionally manage? And what would it look like if you were to step back and let them be responsible for their own feelings? Okay. So, insight number 2 are the 3 types of boundaries, and a little bit of a self-assessment in here too. So, I'm going to cover this kind of quickly. Uh, for those of you who are already enrolled in the course, we go into all of this way more in depth. So if this feels a little fast, if this feels like a lot of information at once, don't worry. I have a whole program that slows all of this down and we really, really get into it. So if there's parts of you that are kind of like, oh, she's going too fast, don't worry. Don't worry. There's time. So there are 3 different kinds of boundaries: porous, rigid, and healthy boundaries. So porous boundaries, those connect with the overlooked giver and the peaceful justifier if you've taken the boundary personality quiz. The porous boundaries are weak, they're unclear, they leave you feeling vulnerable, and they unintentionally really harm our well-being. So this is what a lot of us have, is porous boundaries, right? They have holes in them. They can lead to feelings of exhaustion, overcommitment, depression, anxiety, unbalanced relationship dynamics. Ring any bells? These boundaries are often, they usually often contribute to enmeshment, which is a lack of emotional separation between you and others, and codependency, which is an unhealthy dependence or closeness, and a tendency to people please at the expense of your own needs. So if you have your workbook, there's a question in here. Who in your life do you have porous boundaries with? Make a note of that. So rigid boundaries, this would be mostly the independent manager from the boundary personality quiz. And that's also, there's a link for that in the course too, if people are interested. So rigid boundaries are boundaries that create walls between us and others. They aim at protecting yourself and often lead to new challenges. They are rooted in fear of vulnerability or past experiences, like being taken advantage of. Rigid boundaries enforce strict rules without flexibility. So it is this or the highway, right? It's my way or the highway. You do this or else. This can result in a counter dependency, the belief that you don't need anyone, fostering a strong one mentality or a superwoman mentality. Yeah, this is what I had in the beginning. I had rigid boundaries. I was like, whatever, I don't need anybody. I can do it all by myself. If I don't do it, no one else does it. So I'm just going to continue doing everything by myself. Yeah. So who in your life do you have porous boundaries with? Go ahead and fill that in too. Next, the reason why we are all here, healthy boundaries. This is what the 90 Days to Confident Boundaries course is all about, creating these healthy, confident boundaries. Healthy boundaries involve clarity about your needs, the ability to say no when necessary, respect for others' boundaries, right? It's not just about us. If we have healthy boundaries, if we have healthy boundaries, okay, pause for a moment. If we have healthy boundaries, we also have respect for other people's boundaries. And sharing yourself in ways that feel right to you, right? There's some flexibility in this. Healthy boundaries in one relationship doesn't guarantee the same across all relationships either. For instance, you might have really healthy boundaries at work or with friends, but find it harder with partners or parents. This is often depends on past experiences, fears, and how others have influenced your comfort level. This is why boundaries are so tricky. It's not just a blanket statement that we're just, okay, good, we have good boundaries everywhere. It really depends on the situation in our past, what's influenced us, our level of safety that we feel. So again, write down who in your life, if anyone, do you have healthy boundaries with? So, insight number 3, we're going to do some visioning, and we're going to create your boundary commitment statement. But before we do that, we're going to look at the foundations of a boundary, and we're going to define what a boundary actually is. I know in the first few years, I really thought I knew what a boundary was. And I realized I had no clue what a boundary was. I had no clue. Once I learned, I had to keep practicing and practicing to get really good at it. So let's take a look at what a foundation of a boundary is. Surprisingly, a foundation of a boundary doesn't actually have to do with a boundary. It has to do with your core values, knowing what you need and what you want. We spend a ton of time on this because a lot of us have been putting our wants and needs aside for so long that we have no clue what they are anymore. Someone asks us what we want, and we're like, I don't know, what do you want? Yeah. So this has everything to do with your core values. And I will teach you all about this in the 90 Days to Confident Boundaries as well. So your core values also get at the heart of what your own needs and wants are. So you can stop running on other people's needs and start running on your own needs. Wouldn't that be great? Yeah, I think so too. Which in turn builds self-trust and shifts away from self-abandonment. Because here's the truth. Sometimes we think that we're setting a boundary, but we're really just setting an expectation or making a request. And without clarity on why it matters to us, it's nearly impossible to enforce a boundary. We need to know why it's important to us. Otherwise, at the first sign of someone going, we're like, okay, you're right. I don't actually need or want that. You're totally right. We're good. I'll just keep the peace. But if you know why it's important to you and it leads to one of your core values, something that drives your life, absolutely not. That is a boundary you are going to keep because it is important to you. So why do core values matter so much? So your boundaries, they need to be rooted in what is most important to you, your core values. Without this foundation, a boundary can feel arbitrary, making them easier to dismiss when things get tough. So for example, expectation. They should stop calling me late at night. That is an expectation. Or maybe it's a request. Please stop calling me late at night. That's not a boundary. A real boundary, because I value rest and self-care, I won't answer calls after 9 p.m. and I will put my phone on Do Not Disturb. That is a boundary. Do you see the difference? When you connect your boundary to a core value, it becomes about protecting what matters to you most, not about trying to control someone else's behavior. So, another question that's in that workbook for you. What is one core value that you think you might have right now, just off the top of your mind, that you would like to set a boundary around? Okay. I know a lot of people, core values can be difficult because we're looking at our wants and needs, and We need to make sure that our core values are actually our core values and not someone else's, passed down to us through our family, passed down to us through society. So core values, we get really, really deep in them and really understand why we value this, because it makes it solidified for us. But for right now, just what you know of core values right now, just pick something off the top of your head, off the top of your mind, okay? The last part of this that we go in depth with too in the course is self-worth. If you don't believe that you are worthy of self-care and putting your needs and wants above others, the more we don't self-abandon, the more self-worth and trust we build within ourselves. So if you don't believe you're worthy, you're not going to set boundaries and hold them. But the more you don't self-abandon by setting boundaries, the more self-worth and trust you build within yourself. So here's another question. When self-worth wavers, what is a mantra that you can come back to remind yourself that you're worthy? Maybe it's simple as, I am worthy of love and affection, regardless of what other people think or regardless of how other people act. I value my time and I value my worth. Maybe it's just as simple as that, but jot that down. Okay. We're almost there. We're almost there to creating our commitment boundary statement. But first we have to define what a boundary is. Because like I said, I had no idea what it was for years and I was studying all of this. So a boundary is something that we say we are going to do if said thing happens in order to support, protect, and care for ourselves. It is not something we ask others to do or change. That is called a request or an expectation. Most of us have been going around making requests and setting expectations and thinking that we're setting boundaries, and we're not. Okay? Expectations and requests have been parading as boundaries. It's not a boundary if you don't do something to take care of yourself. So what is a recent boundary you tried to hold that may have actually been a request or an expectation? I want you to write that down. That's in your workbook too. So what's a recent boundary you've tried to hold that may have actually been a request or an expectation? Yeah. So go ahead and write that down. These are all parts that are going to build on each other. Okay, so last step before we build our boundary commitment statement is the steps to making a boundary. So we've covered some of this already. The core value. So get really, 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 really clear on your core values. Where they came from, why you value them, why you came to value them. Like, what was the circumstances in which you started to value said core value? How they shape your life, and how in alignment are you with them? These are all steps to getting really, really clear on your core values. A lot of us were passed down some values that we might not actually value, but we're still living our life by it. So this gives you the freedom to choose. Yeah. So is this an internal boundary or an external boundary? Do we need to make a request to someone else or voice the boundary out loud? So I did use the word request here Because a boundary can include a request, but it's not an actual boundary unless we follow up with the action to take care of ourselves. So is it internal, external? Do you need to make a request to someone else or voice your boundary out loud? Or is this a commitment that I can make to myself and doesn't need to be expressed out loud? So that would be, the next time I go to a social outing, I'm going to leave before I get tired. I don't really need to say that to anybody else. That's just something that I have with myself. That's a boundary I have with myself because I value my time and my energy and I don't want to become depleted. So I'm going to leave before I feel like I'm starting to get drained at the social engagement. Yep, I don't need to say that to anybody. So that's internal. Okay. So, the third is the course of action that's needed to hold the boundary. So remember I said we can make a request, but it stays as a request until we say until we do the course of action that makes it an actual boundary. So this is self-care, support, protection. So is the self-care, support, or protection internal or external? Okay, so is the boundary internal or external? Is the self-care that's needed internal or external? So internal examples, emotionally regulating myself in the moment, reminding myself to not take things personally, reminding myself that I am loved and worthy of love, even if those around me don't act like it in the moment. External examples, not answering the phone after a certain time, removing myself from the situation, leaving the social gathering before I get tired or feel depleted. So Megan has gone through a lot of this, and she says, which is such a wonderful thing, Raina invites you to see the whole person in yourself and is truly able to guide you through positive changes that impact your life through creating boundaries and taking courageous steps in your life. So she's someone who has taken a lot of this to heart and is on her journey to having those confident boundaries because of the work we've done together. So building confidence is building confident boundaries. It takes a lot of steps, right? You've been answering these questions throughout this whole time, right? We cover a section, we answer a question, cover a section. All of the answers to those questions are going to make up your boundary statement. So I want you to take a look at all of your answers right now. I want you to notice if there's a common theme. Is there a common theme? Maybe you picked out a boundary. Maybe there's a couple boundaries on there that you wrote down. I want to use this information to create our boundary commitment statement. So if you're like a lot of my clients, you might have a lot of ones written down, but I want you to pick the one that most speaks to you right now. I don't want you to pick one that you're like, ooh, this is really hard and I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it, because that's not what we're doing here. We're building your confidence. I want you to pick something that you feel you can actually accomplish with the resources and the tools that you have right now. Okay, so pick a boundary or maybe a request that you were making that felt like you were setting a boundary that you feel like you can really do right now with the resources and tools that you have right now. I don't want you to gather more evidence as to why boundaries don't work for you. So I want you to pick something that you feel like you can actually take on right now with the resources and tools that you have with you right now. There are more resources and tools available to you, but we're just talking about with what you have right now. So type in the chat done if you have, even if it's just a vague idea of what you want to set this boundary around based on all of the questions that we've been answering so far. Okay, I type done when you're ready, because we want to build confidence in your ability to show up for yourself and to have your own back for once, to do something for yourself and stick to it, regardless of what's going on around you in the moment. And I know that you can do this because not only have I done this, but a client of mine, Anthea, who has, for the first time, said that she doesn't feel depleted. When she first came to me, she was depleted and unsure she could put one more thing on her plate. And now she feels like there's more time in the day and is free to choose what she wants to do with that time. Wouldn't that be nice? By simply learning how to set confident boundaries for yourself, you feel like you have more time in the day and you get to choose what you do with it. That'd be incredible. Good. I see a couple dones coming through. Let me know if you're completely finished. Julia, I see you're done. Thank you. Serena, ready? Awesome. Good. Okay. So let's move over to your boundary commitment statement. This is also in your workbook. There's a section of it too that you can fill out, that you can type in. So your boundary commitment statement is your name, commit to honoring my needs and protecting my peace in 2025. I will prioritize what feels right for me by, this is where you're going to put in your specific boundary statement that you're picking for today, okay? I will prioritize what feels right for me by, this is your boundary statement. It can be, saying no when I feel overwhelmed and allowing myself to rest. What's the core value there? Is rest. Emotional stability might be it too, because I won't allow myself to get overwhelmed. So fill in what your boundary is there. And then if I struggle to hold this boundary, I will show myself compassion and remind myself that I am worthy of care, balance, and joy. I will come back to this commitment as a reminder that I deserve a year that feels fulfilling and true to me. So fill in those blanks for yourself. Diana, something I will have to think on. We'll check the workbook later. Okay, so Diana, we're going to spend a little bit of time with this, and at the end, we're also going to do a Q&A session, and we can work on this together. So if this is a little foggy for you at the moment, that is completely okay. Stay till the end. I would love to discuss it with you and maybe come up with this boundary statement for yourself. This is kind of long. So if it's like, oh my God, this is a lot to digest at the moment, just do a specific boundary. Just fill in that middle part where it says specific boundary or action. And I give the example of saying no when I feel overwhelmed and allowing myself to rest. Just focus on that part. Saying no when I need to rest is good. Yes. I think we can all identify with that. Absolutely. Absolutely, Diana. Yeah. Yeah. So saying no when you need to rest. So what's the action that's going to come after that. So the example I'm giving, does it it says allowing myself to rest, but I want to acknowledge that if your statement is saying no when I need to rest, that isn't a full boundary statement. What are you going to do in order to take that rest? What do you say to yourself internally? What do you say externally? What are you going to do in order to take that rest? I notice I'm starting to feel drained. I'm going to say no to this commitment. And then you're going to what? Go rest? Yes. So there's always an action. The simple act of saying no sometimes isn't enough. I can say no to the request and I'm still tired. I still need to rest. Someone else is going to come ask me, hey, can you do this? I'm going to say no. I'm still tired. I still need to rest. I haven't taken time to rest yet. So I need to actually go do that action of resting. So I do want to be clear on that. So with that, I want everyone to look at their boundary commitment statements, and I want you to circle or highlight the self-care that you've included for yourself. Remember, a boundary isn't asking others to do something. There can be a request in there, but it's not a boundary until it says what we are going to do to take care of ourselves. So if y'all feel comfortable, pop a few in the chat, just like Diana did. I would love to see what you're coming up with, and we can kind of workshop a few of these too. I think mine is using positive self-talk. Julia, yeah, using positive self-talk. So a complete statement would be, when I notice I'm talking negative to myself, I will then repeat my mantra that I just created. Turn the self-talk around and approach my thoughts with love and compassion and acceptance, right? We need to get really specific. Remember I talked about core values? And the reason why we need to know our core values, like really solidly know our core values, is because we need boundaries that are really rooted and really clear, right? So what's the reason you want more positive self-talk? What's the outcome that you're wanting from that? Is it more self-love? Is it more confidence? So I want everyone to start digging deep. Mine is letting go / walking away from enmeshment, from parent relationships. Yeah. To find more inner peace, self-worth, and freedom. Yeah. Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. So when enmeshment starts to happen, you're going to walk away. And I want you to notice if there's something that you need to say out loud or not, right? If it's internal or external. Is there something that you need to say out loud to the parents to say, hey, I need to go emotionally regulate myself right now, or okay, great, that's the end of the conversation. I love you, goodbye. Whatever it might be, right? You realize that enmeshment's starting to happen. Do you need to say something out loud? Maybe you don't. Maybe you don't. Maybe it's just a simple, if it's on the phone, if it's on a phone call, hey, whatever parent it is, it was nice talking to you. I have to go now. Goodbye. And that's something that you just keep internally for yourself. Yeah. Good. So I want to acknowledge that we're streaming on about 4 different platforms. So if I'm not getting your comments, I just want you to know that I can follow up with you later too. I'm not ignoring you, I promise. We're just streaming on a lot of different platforms at the moment. And the one that I can see is the one that's in front of me. So I want you to all circle the self-care that's in that, okay? So in the letting go and walking away from enmeshment from my parents, is that enough self-care for you? Is the walking away enough? When you walk away, do you need to go emotionally regulate yourself? And how will you do that? How will you emotionally regulate yourself? Okay. Some of us have no idea how to emotionally regulate, and that's okay. We weren't taught that either growing up. I know I wasn't. So that's also included in this 90 days to confident boundaries, is how we actually emotionally regulate ourselves. Yeah. Okay, so keep working on these statements. And like I said at the end, which we are nearing, I'm having so much fun with y'all. I didn't realize we're almost to the top of the hour. My goodness. I will open it for questions here in just a minute. If anybody's having like any skeptical parts popping up right now, I really do welcome them here and invite them in right now, because I know that those skeptical parts really have your best interest at heart. They just want to protect you and keep you safe. And the cool thing about that is that you're in this workshop right now, you're learning right now so that you can keep yourself safe, so that you can protect yourself, so that you can trust yourself. So just want to acknowledge that if anybody has skeptical parts, they are welcome here, because they have the same purpose: to protect and make sure that you're safe. So I also, our recaps, I'll go through this really quick because I know that we're running out of time, but so our recap are three main things that we kind of looked at. It's not your fault that you struggle to set boundaries. It really isn't. You weren't taught how to set them growing up, and it was a survival mechanism that got you this far in life. Okay. The three types of boundaries: porous, rigid, and healthy. And then we visioned a little bit. We did our boundary statement. We looked at what the foundation of a boundary is. We looked at defining a boundary. And hopefully you're walking away with a commitment statement that you feel pretty good about. And we're going to workshop those in just a minute too. I'm going to open up the floor. Before we get there, I just want you all to know that this starts with simple, gradual shifts that make a huge difference in your life. Simple, gradual shifts that make a huge difference in your life. It doesn't mean that you have to put this big, gigantic thing on your plate, right? You already have a full plate. These are simple, gradual shifts that really do make a big difference. You don't have to have your veering towards or veering away from a tree in the middle of the night while you're driving episode. You don't have to have that moment. This right here can be that moment for you. This right here can be your wake-up call. And the world needs all of you. I genuinely, genuinely mean that. The world does need all of you. Not all the shape-shifty parts, not the part, we need all of you, all the parts that you hide because they're not perfect. We need all of you. And this is your path to being able to do that. So your path to confident boundaries starts here today. You've already started it. You're here, you're on the webinar, you've already started it. Your next step is to continue this journey with the 90 Days to Confident Boundaries course that I have specifically designed for you. And if you're here right now, you're still with us an hour into this, this course is for you. There is no doubt in my mind that this course is for you. I'm going to put the link up because I know that we're at the top of the hour and not everyone can stay past the top of the hour. So this is your link, and you can learn more about this course, the 90 Days to Confident Boundaries. So if you need to pop off now, I completely respect your time. I apologize that I'm going over. And just jot down that link, click on it. If you do sign up today, there are extra bonuses that you will get if you sign up today. The course closes, or the cart closes, on January 15th. But if you sign up today, you actually get more bonuses. You get extra coaching with me, extra group coaching with me. You get more one-on-one time and access to me through our community. And you get more boundary scripts that help kind of flesh out these boundaries and make it more simple. I know we went through this kind of quick today, but the course really allows us to slow it down, remove the blocks that are in the way of making it so that you can hold these boundaries. So what you'll get from the 90 Days to Confident Boundaries is unshakable confidence in yourself and setting boundaries. Remember I said earlier, the more we show up for ourselves, the less we self-abandon, the more self-trust and confidence we have in ourselves. And we achieve that by setting these boundaries. That's how we show up for ourselves. We learn how to set these healthy boundaries. We take the time to learn. We take the time to heal, because you matter. You really, really do matter. And the world really does need all of you. So you'll get clarity on your core values. We just touched the very surface of what core values are all about today, but we really do a deep dive into your core values so that you know what you need and what you want out of life, so that you can make these boundaries around your needs and wants. So you can make your life into a life that you want to be in, that you're not just surviving in, that you're thriving in. So the ability to say no without the guilt. This program goes in depth on where the guilt is coming from, where the guilt is coming from, and beginning to heal that. So healthier, more meaningful relationships. You can't have a healthy relationship without healthy boundaries. I will go to the grave saying that. You cannot have a healthy relationship without healthy boundaries. It is impossible. You need healthy boundaries in order to have healthy relationships. The freedom from people pleasing. Yes, freedom from people pleasing. Wouldn't that be incredible? To just feel safe within yourself and feel peace within yourself for once. Not have to rely on external validation, not have to constantly spend all of your time out here, but just to have that stability and that safety and security and peace within yourself. Emotional regulation. I said that earlier. Do I need to go and emotionally regulate myself? But what the heck does that mean? Do I take a few deep breaths? I don't know. Does that work? Do I jump up and down? I don't know. Does that work? Well, we really learn how to actually emotionally regulate ourselves. And then the bonuses, I said, we get real live practice in person with me. That's if you sign up today. So signing up today gives you access to the live sessions with me. More to expect from this program is we get these milestones. So I'm just going to switch my screen over here so I can actually look at y'all in the comments as well. The milestones are, we're going to reclaim control of your life, right? A lot of us feel like we're just out of control, flying by the seat of our pants, have no idea what's happening. Externally, we look like we're in control, but internally, it's just pure chaos sometimes, right? So this is an action plan for banishing burnout and overgiving. We get rid of your overwhelm. Get rid of it, right? So we break the depletion cycle. We touched a smidge on that depletion cycle, like the patterns that keep us stuck in people pleasing, the patterns that keep us stuck in this overgiving. We dive deeper into boundary basics. I know it's strange to think that we just kind of touched on them today, but we dive a little deeper into those too. The circle of control, what is in my control and what is not in my control. Okay, so that seems really simple, but this is something I spend a lot of time on with my clients because it's really hard to grasp. Because a lot of us have been chameleons and a lot of us have been emotionally managing others. So we have a lot of evidence that we actually have control over others when we don't. We don't have control over them. It's a choice, but it doesn't feel like that. It doesn't feel like that to us. So this is a pretty big lesson that we go through. So milestone 2 is true inner confidence, trusting your decisions and honoring your boundaries. This is where we learn emotional regulation, foundations of confident boundaries, your core values we go into more, debunking your limiting beliefs. Milestone 3 is consistent boundaries. Boundaries don't become so consistent unless we practice. So there's a lot of practice in this course. There's a lot of access to being able to really make sure that you're setting boundaries and not just making requests. Okay, so we overcome the emotional hurdles and roadblocks when setting boundaries, and we go deeper into what is really holding us back from setting boundaries. There's a lot of healing that's available for you in this program if you want it. And no more second guessing yourself. No more second guessing yourself, no more ignoring your own needs. If you want that, this program is available for you right now. And like I said, if you sign up today, you get those extra bonuses. You get that extra time with me. And oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm just mentioning this now. You get 20% off the program. So if you sign up today, you get 20% off the program. So if you've already signed up, I just want you to put like yes or me in the chat, or congratulations to me in the chat, because I want to know who has signed up yet. Just put it in the chat. If you haven't yet, we still have some time. We're going to open it up just in a second for some questions. We can go over anything that we covered here. I'm open to all questions about your boundary commitment statement. We can workshop that. If you have any questions about the actual course itself, I'm more than happy to go over those with you as well. But like I said, you do get that 20% off when you sign up today. You're here right now. You stayed this entire time. You're doing the work. So Sarah is a client of mine, and she said that she was consistently overwhelmed by always saying yes to everyone because she believed it was the only way to keep things running smoothly, right? That's what we've been talking about this whole time, right? We feel like we have to do it to keep things running smoothly. Well, 90 Days to Confident Boundaries is going to teach you ways that we don't have to always do that, ways that we can fill ourselves first and give from our overflow so that giving feels effortless and not depleting. You deserve to be filled first and effortlessly give from your overflow so that you don't constantly feel depletion. So she says she started small, learning to focus on her core values, what matters to her most. Then she started to feel more energy, calmer. She began to prioritize her own needs without the guilt. And she felt like her yes could be a genuine yes because she knew what her no was. She says today she feels balanced, grounded, and in control of her life. Don't you want that too? Wouldn't that be incredible? Yeah. So I encourage you to click that link and sign up right now. Put yourself first. Allow yourself to have the life that you want. This photo is very, my outside looks like this, full of snow. What would it mean to have a peaceful 2025 for you? What would that mean to you? What would that mean to you? Let's open it for some questions. You can put them in the chat. You can ask any questions about the program. You can ask questions about your boundary commitment statement, anything at all. I guarantee if you're thinking it, so are other people. If you want to ask it, other people are also wanting to ask it. You're not alone in this journey. We had over 200 people sign up for this webinar, and we have another one at 5:30 Mountain Time. You are not alone in this struggle. You can ask anything that you'd like. Pop your questions in the chat. I know that there is a little tiny bit of a delay in the chat, so if you put it in there already, I haven't seen it yet. But I am an open book, and you deserve to have all of your questions answered, whether it's about your commitment statement. If you want to workshop that, I'm more than happy to do that. If you want to make sure that that boundary portion of it is an actual boundary, if you're a little unclear, you can put it in the chat. We can kind of workshop it. If you have questions about maybe a specific boundary that you've been trying to hold with a specific person, maybe we can workshop that a little bit. But right now you have access to me for about another 10 minutes. So I'm here for any questions that you might have. Okay, we're gonna give it just a couple more seconds for questions, because I know there is a little bit of a delay in the chat. I would love to see each and every one of you in this program. Remember, you get the 20% off for signing up today and being here because you showed up for yourself. That is my gift to you, because you showed up for yourself. Okay. Tanika, I came on late as the boundaries said, do you talk to me like that? Okay, hold on one second. Okay, so I think what you're saying, Tanika, is you're wanting to set a boundary. Don't talk to me like that. Is that correct? Put yes in the chat, or maybe clarify if that isn't. I'm going to go with that. So remember, that's a request. Don't talk to me like that. Ah, yes, perfect. Good. Good clarification, Tanika. Good. So that's a request right now. So do not talk to me like that is a request. I don't want you to talk to me. I'm asking you to do something. That's a request. The other person can say yes or no. Or the other person can say yes, but if they don't have the capacity, if they don't have the tools, the inner growth, the awareness to talk to you differently, that's something they can't do. So how will you care for yourself in that moment? Say you make that request and somebody still talks to you in that same way. How do you then take care of yourself in that moment? So I'll give an example that I use often. So arguing is a natural part of life. And for me, when someone yells at me, it's very, very triggering for me. I shut down, I get completely dysregulated, and I really can't hear what the other person is saying anymore. I really go inside and I just shut down. So a boundary that I have in all of my relationships is, if you are going to, in your case, talk to me in that way, whatever that is, in my case, if you're going to yell at me, I just need you to know that I'm going to need to remove myself from the room to emotionally regulate myself, because I can no longer hear what you're saying, and I care about you, and I want to hear what you're saying to me. I'll come back when I feel calm and I feel like we can have this conversation in a calm way, where I feel like I can listen to you and I feel like I can also be listened to. Where's the focus of that boundary? Is it on the other person? No. Am I asking the other person to do anything? No. I am saying what I'm going to do the next time yelling occurs, or however this person is talking to you. This is the boundary that I would say out loud, especially if this is a personal, like really close relationship. But I would say it out loud when they are, when like you're in a good space with them, right? Things are going really well. And you just kind of want to bring up, the other day when you talked to me like that, I realized that like I just really shut down and I couldn't hear what you were saying anymore, or however it is for you. And I want you to know that like next time that happens, I might need to leave the room to emotionally regulate myself, but I'll come back. I'll come back when I feel like we can have a conversation that's a little bit calmer. But I just need you to know that when you talk to me like that, that's what happens inside of me. And then the other person is allowed to respond, right? They might be like, what are you talking about? Are you kidding me? That's ridiculous. Those are relationships that we might need to reassess. If someone isn't able to respect you and your boundaries, it might be time to reassess the relationship, especially if it's causing you a lot of harm. And I know that's really difficult, but you might be surprised on how well the other person reacts. And maybe the other person didn't know that that type of speech was affecting you that way. And now they know how it's affecting you, and they can hear it because you're not saying, you did this, you can't do that, don't do this anymore, you're making me feel. I didn't say any of that. I said, I feel. Fill in the blank when you. I need to. Fill in the blank when XYZ happens to take care of myself. If somebody really truly loves and cares about you, they want you to take care of yourself. They really do. So keeping the focus on yourself is really important. Tanika, is that helpful? Can you put in the chat, how helpful is that for you? And if there's anything that's not clear, also put that in the chat. I'd love to hear if that kind of helped set the stage for that kind of conversation and that boundary, right? Because remember, don't talk to me like that is a request, or maybe a demand, but it's not a boundary. A boundary says what I'm going to do when you talk to me like that. It's also not a threat. It's a self-care, right? If you're going to continue talking to me like this, I'm going to need to leave the room to emotionally regulate. Or I feel really disrespected when you talk to me this way. I'm going to come back when I feel we can have a calmer conversation. Or I'm not going to engage in conversations with you if this is the way you're going to talk with me. So next time, I just need you to know that when this language is used, I'm going to gracefully exit the room. Those are all appropriate things to say. So Tanika, just write in the chat if that is, I know I do this a lot and people are like, okay, here we go. Okay. Okay, so so Tanika says, how would you handle if someone is texting at 2 a.m.? And I think, Tanika, you said that you came on late. I actually gave an example of this earlier on, that a request, I think this is like in the beginning. So a request is, do not text me late at night. A boundary is, I will not answer my phone or my texts after 9 p.m. I will put my phone on silent or do not disturb. Or block the person's number. This is helping. Good. Thank you, Tanika. Yeah. So, right. So it sounds like you, like many of us, are making requests of people instead of making a full boundary. So a full boundary says what I'm going to do, right? I don't want them texting me at 2 a.m. I wouldn't want someone texting me at 2 a.m. either. In fact, my phone automatically goes on do not disturb at 9 p.m. So nobody can actually reach me after 9 p.m. Now, I do have a couple people who are close to me. If there was an emergency, they could break through that do not disturb. But I do that because I need sleep. If I don't sleep, I'm a crazy person in the morning, and not in a good way. So you're allowed to do that. You're allowed to do that. Diana says, possibly dealing with, oh, yeah. So the word narcissist gets thrown around quite a bit. And I love that people are getting educated on it, which is really, really wonderful. And we all have narcissistic tendencies. I just want to acknowledge that. People become narcissist when it becomes really debilitating in their life. So I just want to acknowledge that too, that we all have a little bit of narcissistic tendencies. Boundaries can really, really flesh out narcissists, and boundaries can also flesh out the people who are not narcissists. So somebody loves you and cares about you. They want you to take care of yourself. They don't want you to feel emotionally distraught. They want you to care for yourself. Yes, boundaries might be a little hard in the beginning because you hadn't been setting them, and now you are. So things might shift a little bit, but your life will get better for it, I promise. Your relationships will get healthier for it, I promise. So Tara says, I struggle to work out what my core values actually are. Yes. Someone riddled with PTSD and always dysregulated. Yeah, Tara, thank you for sharing that. I know that can be a vulnerable share. I really appreciate you showing up vulnerably too. This 90 Days to Confident Boundaries course, we spend a lot of time on core values. And there's a workshop specifically for a live workshop with me, specifically for core values, because a lot of us have no clue what they are anymore. We've been running on other people's core values or needs and wants for so long. And when we're dysregulated, the majority of the time, it can be a lot harder. Excuse me, I'm just going to get some water. Okay. When we're dysregulated, it can be a lot harder to kind of drop down into our feelings of what we need and what we want, because PTSD, I'm not sure what it's from, but PTSD is there for a reason. And when we have PTSD, it puts us outside of our body because whatever we're feeling internally isn't safe for us. So part of creating confident boundaries for yourself is also creating a body that you feel safe in, that you feel secure in, that you feel that there's a sense of safety so that you can be able to have that stability internally. And in the 90 Days to Confident Boundaries, we cover a lot of how to make sure that we do feel safe in our bodies. So that might be a really helpful tool for you. I'd love to see you in the program, Tara. And dysregulation in my world means that there is some healing to do inside. I've gone through a lot of it as well. I used to also have some PTSD. I struggled with a lot of mental health things in my past. And I'm here now with boundaries and living a healthy life and in healthy relationships that people respect my boundaries and I respect their boundaries. So I would love to see you in the program, Tara. Yeah. 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 Diana says, I have PTSD too. Yeah. You know, we learned what PTSD is, and a lot of us realized that, like, oh my gosh, we didn't realize that from whatever situation it came from. A lot of us have PTSD and spend a lot of time out of our bodies. This program also helps with that. Being able to safely be in our bodies, being able to create that security within ourselves. Yeah. So Diana, I would love to see you in the program as well as you, Tanika. You have to rewatch this. Yeah, absolutely. If you're still here, Tanika, you will get a replay. All of you will get a replay. Please feel free to go through and please feel free to go through and rewatch this as many times as you want. And anything that doesn't feel clear in this, we just like skimmed the top of some of this content, right? It's 90 days. The reason it's 90 days is because change does not happen overnight. I can give you tools and you can wake up tomorrow morning and have the intention to use them. But if we're not addressing the underlying cause of people pleasing, the underlying cause of emotionally regulating others, the underlying cause of feeling guilty when you're setting boundaries, it will still be hard to set those boundaries. We need to address what's going on under the surface. And that's what this 90 days to confident boundaries is all about. Yeah, you're welcome, Diana. Yes. Yeah. Tanika. Yes. CPTSD. Absolutely. See, we're all, I love it when a group of people come together and we're like, yes, me too. I don't love it that we all have to say me too, but that you're not alone. You're not alone in this. You're all here for a reason. Kyrene, yes, you are very, very welcome. I'm so glad that this helped. Yeah. Yeah, I hope to see you in the program as well. I hope to see all of you in this program and get to actually spend some time with you. I would love it. I got to spend a little time with you here, but I would love to spend more time with you in this program. All right. Thank you all for being here. Thank you all for staying extra. I had so much fun with you today that I just like kept going and we ran over time. And I appreciate each and every one of you who stayed all the way to the very end. I hope to see each and every one of you in this program. Like I said, if you sign up today, you get that 20% off. You get those extra bonuses. The cart closes on January 15th. So I will see you all again. Thank you so very much for showing up. Not just to this webinar, but for yourself. It's a round of applause for each and every one of you who showed up for yourself and stayed. All right, I will see you all soon in the course. Bye-bye.